I'm Julianne Puente, head of school at Albuquerque Academy in New Mexico. The Academy is a leader in the world of independent schools. We honor our past while embracing the future of education. Even though I've been going to school in one shape or form for almost my entire life, I still learn something new every day. And I use that knowledge to tackle the challenges that should interest anyone who has a stake in the future we can't fully imagine. Thanks for joining me to hear about what I learned in school. Hello, and welcome to What I Learned in School, where we explore the stories, traditions, and people that have shaped our community. I'm your host, Julianne Puente. This season, we're focusing on Academy's history, and today we're joined by two people whose impact on our school cannot be overstated, Vincent Cordova and his daughter, Dr. Loretta Cordova de Ortega. Vince served the Academy for 33 years from 1969 to 2002 as a beloved and respected math teacher, basketball and track coach, and administrator. In the classroom, Vince was known for his dedication to academics, while on the court and track, he inspired student athletes to grow not only in skill, but also in character, leadership, and perseverance. As a head coach of the boys basketball team, he led the Academy to state championships in 1981 and 1984. Vince also shaped the Academy as an administrator, serving in key roles including Director of Tuition Assistance, Director of Admission, Dean of Students, Dean of Multicultural Education. Vince has been a thoughtful and candid voice in conversations about diversity, culture, and belonging at the Academy. His experiences, both personal and professional, offer us a unique perspective on how our school has evolved and changed over time. His daughter, Loretta, was among the second year of girls to attend the Academy and graduated in 1977. She went on to Stanford and UNM to study medicine. After completing her residency at UCLA Medical Center, she serves as the endowed chair of the Department of Pediatrics and professor of pediatrics at the University of New Mexico Medical School. As a general pediatrician, she has devoted the majority of her practice to children with special health care needs, chronic medical conditions, and Spanish-speaking families. Loretta is the first Hispanic female chair in the history of UNM Medical School. Vince and Loretta, welcome back, and thank you for joining me today. So maybe if you can, each of you tell a little bit, and if clearly it overlaps, about your background and your ties to Albuquerque.
Okay, I grew up in a very tiny community in Socorro County called La Jolla, Lajoya, and went to high school there. And then from there on, after my senior year, I went on to college at the College of St. Joseph that became the University of Albuquerque later on. Mm-hmm. And now is where St. Pius campus is at. And from there, I got my degree in mathematics, and I started teaching in the public sector and taught 2 years in Cuba, New Mexico. And then from there on, I went to Las Lunas, New Mexico, and I taught several years. And I was coaching basketball and teaching high school mathematics at the time. And we happened to one night have to come into the Albuquerque Academy and play against them.
Yeah.
And so I was here, and during the JV game, the head coach, John Hiller at the time, gave me a little tour of the campus, and it was fabulous because here on the arches there were bags there and no one touched them in the evening, and there was grass that was neatly manicured, and I think he showed me a classroom that was tiny in the sense of, in comparison to my class where I have 30 kids in.
Yeah. And
so consequently, and I can't remember whether I beat him or he beat me. But they had just won the state championship that year before in basketball. And so one night around 9 o'clock, all of a sudden I get a call, and it says, this is a representative from Albuquerque Academy. And Mr. Harper wants to know if you'd be interested in teaching at Albuquerque Academy and would like could you send us your resume? I had no idea about anywhere.
Right.
I had finished my 2 graduate degrees in mathematics and the other one in administration, and probably heading towards administration in the public sector. And so all of a sudden, the next day, I get and they tell me that I could send my resume, and I didn't know anything about a private school at all. We're not a private school state in any way, shape, or form.
Right, right.
So the first one I called was in the off. So anyway, I came over, and he set up on a Sunday an appointment for my wife and I to come and talk to him.
Right.
And he says he offered me the job that he would like for me to come and teach mathematics at the high school and to develop the basketball program at the 9th grade level. And I was a varsity coach where I was at before. So I still didn't know what the school was about. I had only seen one classroom in the grass, and that's it, in the gymnasium. And so consequently, I went home. I called my brother, who was a professor at the College of St. Joseph at the time. And I said, what do you think? Well, I says, what does he offer you? Well, he says, he'll offer me the same salary I'm getting now in Las Lunas. And then my son, if he does okay in the test, can go to school there. Well, that's a great opportunity. It's a great school. He knew about it. So I decided I send my resume in, and then I get called for another interview, and he says, we'd like to have you here, and we'll offer you the same salary, and no, I think it was $1,000 more, and we will move you if you want to move to Albuquerque. So that was the offer.
It works very much the same now, just so we're clear. Even the bags underneath the arches, all of it's so much the same.
Well, I saw it for a few years. So we decided, my son took the test, and he had no problems. He went on and did quite well here. He went on to school and went on to Stanford and later on got his medical degree, etc. So anyhow, so I started teaching mathematics, and I can remember the first classes that they gave me, and it was a piece of cake. They were so well organized. They gave me a list with all the names before the first class of who was going to be in my classroom. I remember having 15 kids in my classroom, and that was a piece of cake. And I was teaching an algebra class, a geometry class, two algebra 1 classes, and 2 geometry classes. That's what Gene Gardenhire gave me at the time. He was the head of the department. And so it was quite interesting, and to sit down with, he gave me an honors geometry class, that I remember. And that honors geometry class to this day probably was one of the best classes I ever taught at the academy.
Yeah.
They were superb. They were outstanding. And so, but the first thing, you talk about experiences, how things happen, how you feel, etc. Here's a Hispanic person, first only one here on campus teaching mathematics. And all of a sudden, I take my first algebra class, and I'm looking at, I had 15 students, and all of a sudden, I only have 11 kids that showed up. They guess they were absent. Well, they had been transferred. And knowing kids, you hear the kids can give you any information you want in anywhere you go.
Oh, yeah.
So consequently, basically, it was a situation where parents did not, as one parent says, well, we just didn't want a kid with a Mexican person teaching mathematics. So I got through that. It didn't bother me. I've been around the block too many times.
It would have bothered me.
And,
just so we're clear.
And so consequently, that was the first experience I had at that, but it was okay. I had 12 kids in the class. But later on, those kids wanted to come into my class. That was a good part. And I always had a lot of fun in my classes. So anyway, so that started that. And then I coached basketball. I developed the 9th grade program, and I also coached track and field, and I was in charge of the middle distance and distance runners at the time with Dave Barney. And so continued going there, and Gene Gardenhire had total control. He's the only one that could teach the calculus classes at the time. He's the only, he made sure of that.
Yeah. and
so consequently, later on, I got to teach pre-calculus and all of that, and it was fun, and it was great. Some great students. And so consequently, moving on forward from there, my the ninth grade program did quite well. And I discovered, of course, one of the ball players that was in my team was Mr. Harper's son.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
in Spanish, there's a saying for that, but I won't say it here now. I'll say it, though. In Spanish, they say, es más el amor que el interés.
I haven't heard that before.
Do you know what that means?
Well,
El amor, in other words.
Yeah, but I've never heard it as
it's more the love of my child than the interest in you.
Right.
And so anyway.
Right. Which is true.
Yeah, I've done that. So consequently, I started going from there and enjoyed it. It was different from the public sector. Very organized. The meetings were very organized. Everything was in taps, We had the lights up in there, and the lights would turn red or green, red, yellow, and so on, and blink red when the next class was going on. There were no bells.
Right.
So I quickly got used to it, and it was kind of nice.
Nice. Well, let me ask you. You gave a nice introduction. How you got here.
Yeah.
What about when girls were introduced? Do you remember that? And how that played into your family,
I can give you the story before girls, if you wish, and get to girls.
Okay, let's do it.
What happened, we used to meet, and it was an all-male faculty, incidentally.
Yes.
It was an all-male faculty when I got here, and we used to meet in one of our old study hall rooms. They were slanted down, auditorium-like. Mm-hmm. And we were meeting there. And all of a sudden, Whitey Marburger was the dean, and he went through all the grades, and we went to discuss kids that were having problems, etc. And then it's over. And all of a sudden, there's a hand, hey, I got a question, in the back. And he says...
That still happens, too.
But he says, how about, I will not mention the name, how about this? And it was a Hispanic kid. After all, we used to have a Hispanic governor at the time. After all, we got to get at least another Mexican-type person to take over the governorship. How come you didn't bring him up? Is he really doing well here? And so Whitey Marburger looks at, he's fine. He doesn't have any reason to be discussed. That's hard to believe that. And then he made a big joke, and everybody started laughing, and except, wow. Uh-huh. I did not laugh. I went after him, and generally in the little communities, we used to do little things like, go after him, physically take care of him. I followed him all the way to the car, and I used really bad language. And so anyway, I came back, and I went home, and there's my wife with all the 5 kids that we had. We had, we only had one here at the school. But this was about 3 years later, incidentally, since I had started. And says, what are you doing? My wife says, no, I need the phone. And at the time, we used to have a directory for all the faculty, and I look it up, and I called then Mr. Harper, and I called him at home, and I says, hey, what's wrong with her? And I says, well, I just can't believe that you, as head of the school, would sit there and actually not say a thing on that derogatory remarks, and that would brighten up the day. And I'm just disappointed. And we had a little chat. And so that was it. Well, I hope you're okay, Vince. We'll be fine. We'll be fine, And we hung up. And then the next day, I'm teaching a pre-calculus class, and here comes Peggy Spring, his secretary, and there's a knock on my window, and I says, my wife had already lectured me how dumb I was, and I had already been fired at the house.
Right.
My immediate boss had fired me already. What are you going to do with 5 kids?
Right.
We had only one here at the school. She was going to also a Catholic school down, and so the other ones were younger. And so anyway, and it's a little note, and he used to write in little scripting notes like that. VC, please see AHASAP. My mind, what was it? I'm getting fired. I should get fired. And so I went to his office, and he's looking at the bookshelf in his office, and he whirls around, and there's a piece of paper upside down in front of me. And I looked at it, well, here comes my termination. That's all that was in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so consequently, I turned the paper over. And actually, it was an apologetic letter from the person that had made the remarks to begin with that I went after. Very sorry, etc. And Mr. Harper says, Spencer, I can have two of my better teachers. I need you guys to get together somehow.
Yeah.
And we knew each other. We played poker every weekend.
Right.
And so we met at Caro's there on Montgomery and at the counter there, and we stayed for about 2 hours talking about things, and it was fine. We got it straightened out and everything else. About 3 months later or 2 months later, there's another letter that I get, and it says, the Albuquerque Academy Board of Trustees has met in executive session and has decided to actively seek kids that come from different ethnic and economic backgrounds, appointing me to become an assistant director of admission, but specifically in charge of that.
Huh. How does it make you feel that today it's, 60% of our student body would identify as students of color? I mean, was that even conceivable to you in the 70s or the 80s?
Yeah, when I started, it was about 2%. And the applicant pool was very low. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we had to do was get an applicant pool. So I started working with Bill, and there was no problem because I used to run all of the recreation program for the county, and I knew all of the principals in all the elementary schools.
Yeah. So
that was not a problem. The head that was there, he became head of personnel for APS, and I knew him well. So all of a sudden, what happened then, he says, Vince, I have the Department of Native American Affairs would like to meet with you. So I go and I meet with them, and he says, well, we're trying to identify kids that would be academically talented, that would benefit by going into the school. Very few non-white kids knew about Albuquerque Academy. They did not belong there. But anyway, so we had, so we went, and I started developing. So I met with the 3 Native American administrators, and they used to send a newsletter to the pueblos on the education for the kids, etc. So then I went and I asked the head then, I says, is there any way that I could bring some kids in the summer program? Well, you'll have to ask Suchlin. So I went to Bill Suchlin, who was running the summer school, and he says, well, Vince, I don't know. I'll give you 12 spots. So what I did, fine, I decided I would go because we didn't have any Native American kids in. Now, we had John White, who was semi. And anyway, so all of a sudden, I developed a different application than the one we had, but I took it from there and developed a new application for the summer program. And then what I did, I got them being they became 6 people in my committee for Native Americans to come in, and they became the selection committee. And we met in my classroom till late hours of the night. And the reason I did that, Bill Weir was not very happy about this, that I was doing that, letting all the secrets of Albuquerque Academy, how they admitted people, etc. And what are you doing? He says, well, there was a reason for it that I wanted to do is because not what they accepted, because they were going to accept 12 kids out of about 25 that had applied, that they understood the issue of rejection. They understood what rejection was about, because as we brought or enticed people to come here, some were going to be not accepted, just like in any other process. And so therefore I needed that support for kids that would not be accepted after we entice them to apply.
You have the same issue today.
And so we accepted all kids, and they went to summer school. In the same time, I get a call from a young man, Regis Beckles, that graduated, and he went on to Princeton. And Vince, I'd like to bring 14 kids from Cochiti over here. I says, I don't have any room, Regis. He coordinates the House of Representatives and the Senate now. The council at Cochiti has agreed that they would pay for all the tuition. Anybody could come to summer school. So now I told Bill, hey, I got you 12 kids here, 14 kids actually, and they're paying for it. So he was very happy about it.
So let me ask you, when the Garcias gave a substantial gift to the Academy, and we were able to name now that summer program after you, the Vincent Cordova Summer Scholars Program, which is free to 65 kids a year, and we do a full day now.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Well, it made me feel great because the Garcia was kind of my surrogate children after the dad passed away suddenly.
Yeah.
And but it made me feel great to see that this was happening. That some family found that it was worthwhile, and that we could take this institution here in Albuquerque to assist other people. My view is the fact that not to bring not necessarily kids of color here, but it was to see how could we get more kids educated so that they could serve our community in a variety of ways.
You know, we've done that too, and I mean, I share that philosophy not just with students, but through Teaching Fellows program, that they would learn to teach from really some of the very best teachers, period, and ended, and then can go and serve other schools and learn that way. That I think that has been part of the Academy ethos. Well, from the beginning, it was part of the thing that really attracted me to hear, and that, we try and do that in lots of ways. Even like we host the state cross country meet, straight track meet. We don't charge. We do for swimming. Like anytime we can open the campus, and people think it's free. It's actually not free to do any of those things. But how can you, serve the greater community? Levanta with adult education and education in the arts. It's been part of that ethos well before I got here, and it was just something that we've continued to expand upon. Tell me a little bit about when girls did come.
In 73. Yeah. And they decided, and they basically, the first year before 73, they took in about 5 or 6 girls that belonged to faculty members. And that was the first thing. Okay?
Right.
The next year we added to that, and that's when she came in. And again, there was doubts in faculty. I could hear advanced, they're not going to do it. They don't have the background. I mean, all of that. And so consequently, in the first year of the girls, I think the top math and science student were women. And yet there was that battle that was not going to happen.
Right.
Because I had already seen this battle with students of color, that they're not going to make it here. It's not a place for them. They're going to be able to do it, etc.
Right.
And so consequently, they were surprised to see that women actually, were doing quite well. The sad part, because to begin with, we didn't have female faculty. Miriam McClooney was the first teacher of English that came in, and we didn't even have a bathroom for the poor lady.
Loretta, go for it.
Oh, I was going to say, we did have Mrs. O'Connor.
And Mrs. O'Connor.
And I want to interview her.
Mrs. O'Connor, we don't talk to her because she came with the school.
But didn't she teach art?
She taught art. She was the art.
She was here last year. Yeah. It's just another one Dave Bond.
She was fabulous. She's a fabulous woman indeed. Yeah.
So Loretta, tell me about your earliest memories here as a student, as a faculty kid, the campus. Did you feel welcome? All of those things. Your recollection of it.
Yeah. So we moved here in '69. I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I knew that the academy was an all-boys school, and my brother went to school here, and my father taught here. And I knew that it wasn't a place I would be able to go because it was an all-boys school. But I had, it was a very small community in the sense that the teachers were all good friends, and they would come to dinner at our house.
Yeah.
And so it was a really wonderful, welcoming community in that regard. From my eyes, from my perspective, as a child, it was our playground, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was this expanse of everywhere to go, and we laughed because one perk we had as faculty students, and there was a few of my friends who were also faculty students. We talk about, we could go to the play racquetball, or we could go to the pool on the weekends, and so it was kind of our little country club that was a perk for us. So that was how I belonged. I remember events like they had a lot of community type events like the Harper's Bazaar and things like that, so my parents always included us in all that. And so that was a very fond memory. When my dad was a coach, we always attended all the games and went to track meets. And so as a child, it was really just wonderful. I had no idea, though, what was happening on the other side, right? The things that my dad had to deal with in terms of students and what he's talked about. So when they decided to let girls in, I do recall some of the first year was a group of class, but it was 10th grade, and I was in 9th grade that year. So I didn't go into that class. And then the following year I applied and had to go through the application process and interview and do fine. And so that was an opportunity that I never imagined being able to do. I always watched my brother, but I never knew I would be part of that. It was an interesting time, and I would say academically there was a difference between being in public school and here. I was a 10th grader, and I was in physics with the 8th graders. I was in math with the 8th graders, but pretty quickly caught on and did well. But that first year was a transition year that was, it was challenging, I would say. There wasn't a bathroom for girls. And so I remember downstairs in what's Brown Hall now, that was a teacher's lounge, and they changed it to the girls' bathroom. It had a lounge. All the boys were jealous about that. But that was our bathroom because they didn't have one. And they had one in the administration building because all the assistants were women. And so they had, but that was it. And so then they had to think about a girls' locker room. And so they created a new locker room in the gym. And then just the opportunities were there. I mean, what was amazing is just not only just the academic piece and the opportunities, but art and sports, the ability to do all that. What was fun back then is I got to do every sport. So I got to do drama, and I got to do run track and play field hockey and cross country and softball and basketball. You got to do it all because there weren't that many girls here.
Right.
So it was a phenomenal opportunity to experience that at the time.
What was your life? What did you do after you graduated from here? Your track a bit.
I went to college. I went to Stanford, and then I returned to New Mexico and went to medical school at UNM. I did my training at UCLA, and I returned to New Mexico, and I'm a pediatrician. And I would say that I had never imagined going away to college or going away from New Mexico. I was, I'm a child of this state. My family's been here hundreds and hundreds of years, and I was very committed to this state.
Yeah.
So I do say that the school opened up my eyes to opportunities like that. When I went to college, I was very well prepared. I never imagined being so well prepared when I went to college. And I say that from the lens of when I came here, I didn't do well in English. I got a D in my first English class, and I was mortified. You can imagine, being a teacher's kid and always wanting to make straight A's, and that was just awful. And I worked with a teacher. He said, let's get you to it was purposely done, right? I mean, he said, you need to improve. And the same with history. We had a history teacher that was really just amazing but challenging. So I learned a lot about how to read and write and all the aspects of that. So when I went to college, always became second nature. So math and science are my first love. English was and writing was just not something I embraced as well. And when I went to college, I could write a paper the day before it was due and do great on it.
Yeah.
So that foundation from the academy, I think, was pretty remarkable. My husband's went to the academy too. We met here, and when he went to the same college, he had gone to Santa Clara actually, and his English professor said, "Where did you learn this? And what books did you use?" And he actually gave him the books that we used at the academy. And his college professor said, "I'd like to use this in my class."
Yeah.
So those are, that was many, many years ago. But I think the foundation that the school prepared us for the future was really remarkable.
It's amazing. Good writing is good thinking, and it never goes out of style.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, where you are in history or in the future, like being able to articulate a sound argument or convey a feeling or an emotion with written expression is something that needs to be practiced and taught and refined over many years. People think it's like, oh, I can do it in a year. I'm like, oh, I'm still doing it. Right. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about the importance it was as an alum and then as really one of the pillars of the academy to have kids return to New Mexico, because there is this, over half of our alums don't live in New Mexico anymore. Mm-hmm. They do phenomenal things all over the world. But New Mexico, and particularly Albuquerque, is a city that has its issues. I'm not saying other cities don't, but the need for people here is pretty great. So what made you return, and what would be a kind of call to action here to entice that decision for perhaps some others when you can just make more money elsewhere, and it can be safer, and it can be all of those things. So what are your thoughts on that, both of you?
For me, philosophically, I was given a gift by my parents, and that gift was my education. Mm-hmm. And they invested. You saw that my parents moved from a small community where you're content and you understand your surroundings and the people, and you moved to, back then, a community that was very vastly different. That comfort level was different, and you took a chance, right? But my dad and mom really invested in our education and sacrificed a lot. And then I went away and was exposed to quite a different world, like 10 times what the academy was, right? Yeah. And on some level, I could say I didn't belong there. I didn't feel comfortable there. But what I knew is that I was given more that I could bring back here. Mm-hmm. And so I've always felt like my opportunity to give others that opportunity as well was my calling. Mm-hmm. And so that's really kind of probably from the example of my parents. Yeah. But that's what I did. And I came back to New Mexico, and I would never leave. And I actually have to say I had a great appreciation for New Mexico. When I left here, people didn't know where it was from. My roommate in college said, "Oh, do they have cowboys and Indians there? Mm-hmm. Do they?" I mean, I literally had no idea that people didn't know. I grew up thinking, I've grown up in an odd place and this unusual place, and not very well educated people are there. That's truly what I experienced. I came back with a greater appreciation for what we had here, the richness of our culture. I learned what it was meant to be the land of enchantment. I kept thinking, and I do that every day at work. Right. I think, what do you mean it's enchanting here? Because I didn't have an appreciation for the rich culture we have here, the beauty of our land, and the opportunities that we have. I mean, you look at, we have Sandia, what attracts people here? Sandia National Labs, in Los Alamos. I mean, that is really something we don't even think about, right? Right. But I think the richness of the culture too. I have, when my dad talks about going to the pueblos and really understanding the wealth of knowledge and beauty of our land.
Yeah.
That's what brings me here. So I have an opportunity to continue that and show people what it's like to live here, to make a difference. I also have to say that in my current role, I tell all the people that work for me, you make such a difference in people's lives when you're here. And there's no greater satisfaction personally as a human to be able to do that. And so that's what I do. I have 4 kids. They all went to the academy. They all left, and they all came back. And they came back. My oldest daughter says, there is so much to do here.
Right.
There is so much opportunity here. People just don't see it yet or don't appreciate it enough. And so my daughter was gone 15 years and came back. And I think it's that it takes a lot of work and effort, but if you can show others what we have here, it's always looking at the glass half full for me. There is so much we can do to make a difference in people's lives. And I probably learned that from my parents, right? My father saw these students that could do really well if given the opportunity. And I think that's what I feel almost an indebtedness, but just a calling and a drawing to do that.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, both of you. And thanks for jumping in.
Oh.
It's time for the teacher feature, when you get to meet one of the fantastic faculty members at the Academy. Today I'm here with my good friend Peter Gloyd, an Academy graduate from the class of 1998 and a teacher in our math department. Peter serves as the Director of Diversity, Culture, and Belonging, and it also directs our Vincent Cordova Summer Scholars Program. Peter, welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. Yeah, and I appreciate the introduction, and yeah, great to be here with you.
It's amazing that we're just having conversation this way when we talk every day. Now they're just microphones with us, right? So I think a lot of what we'll talk about are the very issues that we talk about at our school, making sure that our kids are taken care of. But you were an Academy student yourself. Maybe talk a little bit about how you found the Academy, what your time was like here, and what you took from it as a high school student.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to that story. Basically, I grew up on the Navajo Nation and in Chinle, Arizona, northeastern Arizona, and not Navajo myself, but my parents worked there, and I'm biracial. So, but my family decided to move to Albuquerque in large part for me to come to the Academy. We talked to some people in the Stanford admissions office, which is where I wanted to go, and they recommended the school in our region to be Academy. And so when I was 15 in 10th grade, I came here. And so it was a big culture shock, coming from a small town to the big city, coming from, where I grew up to the fancy school and different population, of course, and, different culture. And so, it took a little while for me to, I think navigate that and to kind of figure out, and then just in my own identity, still trying to figure out who I was and who I, how I fit in. And so, but just grateful for the teachers that I had, the coaches that I had. We had spaces, affinity spaces where I could connect with people who had, similar lived experiences. And, struggled a little bit in terms of academically. I don't think I had the same background and foundation as a lot of students who were, my peers. And, but again, through the support that I had at the school, was able to, find my way to the finish line. And Academy to this day has really been the most, I think, challenging, rigorous academic experience that I've ever had, and prepared me so well for, everything else I've done in my life.
So what made you go into teaching, and particularly mathematics?
Yeah, it's funny because at advisory yesterday, we were talking about,
right,
what are your goals?
Right.
And we had students list top 3, and then we had them list an alternate goal. And I told them teaching wouldn't have been anywhere on my radar. Like it wouldn't have been, even I wouldn't have thought of it as an alternate goal. And it definitely wouldn't have been in my top 3. But in college, I started out pre-med and I was majoring in business. And I, through a friend, started working at this shelter for teenagers, adolescents. And I just really loved it. I just found my passion in just working with young adults and, just being a small part of their lives and hopefully helping them to, achieve all their goals and hopes and dreams and all the things. And so I, in the midst of that experience, I realized this is what I love to do. This is what I'm passionate about. And so I changed my major to math and went into teaching and then got my licensure and master's in education. And so, so that's kind of how that decision was made. But yeah, it was definitely not something that I really considered until,
Right.
Having this work experience.
And so what brought you back to the academy to teach?
Yeah, that's another good question. I think I've always wanted to, teach to uplift society, to close achievement gaps or opportunity gaps and things like that. And so I always thought of the academy as a place where, I wasn't needed or that, that students were, just had all the supports and all the things to be successful and didn't necessarily need, didn't need me there or, could do well regardless of who the teachers are. But as I kind of grew in my teaching profession and practice, I would have conversations with my former teachers from academy and alums and things like that. And just remembering how amazing the teachers were and how much I struggled and needed that, those good teachers. And so it took me a while also just because I held my teachers in such high esteem for me to feel like I was even like, qualified for one, but deserving on another level to even apply to the academy, And so I think, finally after 14 years in the classroom, I felt like I had, kind of reached a point where I felt comfortable, applying to the academy. So that's a big part of it.
And then there was the fateful moment, the two of us in Garden Hire Hall, when I turned around and said, "Hey, Peter, how do you feel about becoming a director of, diversity, culture, and belonging?" And that we would, I look at that work as the work for everybody to do. And also don't look at it as solely as race or gender or religion, but how do you have a sense of belonging for everyone? And we share that philosophy, which, we've also joked, I tell you all the time, don't go to conferences and say you get along with the head of school. You're going to lose all your credibility. But we get along well and can argue about things. I think people think that institutions are just make a decision and everyone agrees. I mean, we've gone at it over wording, over this, over approach. And that to me is what makes the academy really healthy. If we thought exactly the same or anyone else at that table, that to me is dangerous in that way. So why don't you talk a little bit about the approach to DCB work at the academy from your perspective, and maybe tie it into, being here as a student and knowing Vincent Cordova and, how did all of that work to influence your kind of view on this work?
Yeah. Well, and just back to the, that fateful moment, like you were mentioning, I think I was, very surprised that, that you would think of me, and at that point, I don't think we knew each other very well, but I was, again, just honored and surprised pleasantly that, you would think of me for this work. And I'm a lifelong teacher at heart for sure. And so, and I did just finish an MBA in educational leadership. And so I was, kind of trending towards looking into leadership roles. But I never really was, interested too much in being a principal or a division head even, or things like that. So this I feel like fits me and my purpose and my, professional mission really well. But at the same time, one day I'm a math teacher and the
Now
next
you're
day
math
I'm the expert
and
in
you're both.
yeah. And so, and I think, and I've definitely had training and taking classes in terms of sociology and dynamics of prejudice and things like that. But but it felt like a lot of weight to now, have to be able to have an answer for these types of questions or situations and things like that. And going back to the approach, I think what I found early on is like I don't have all the answers,
Right.
and I think a lot of it is just how do we work together and ask the right questions and kind of work together to find the best solution for our community in that moment and for our students in that moment. And so and it's definitely, like you said, a shared collective responsibility that I've found our faculty and our families and our students to be great partners in. And so, and I think that's most of the good things that have come out of any of my work, I think, are from those collaborative experiences, and so I definitely credit, like all the people that I've worked alongside.
Right. And it's this, like, it's a fine line about, we're never here to shame anyone, but to really seek to understand and to have a learning outcome. And sometimes people don't like being called out on stuff because I hadn't thought about it that way. And, so that has, it cannot fall on just you or the DCB team, but on the division heads, on myself, on the deans, on all of that. And that work matters. I would say that a lot of the work that we've also done is on the political side of not, I found our teachers super reflective, not using their classrooms as pulpits, but allowing space for, kids to express ideas, and us asking those questions where I do think people, what they confuse, that if other people don't have their ideas, they're somehow being suppressed. I'm like, that's not, that's just not true. Right. So you're also a dad and have 3 Chargers here and one that's going to graduate.
I know.
And how has it been to see the Academy through your kids' eyes?
Yeah, that, I think, so many full circle moments. I think as a student, even being here at Academy, I think, again, with my struggle and things like that, I don't think I really fully appreciated what I had while I was here. But as soon as I left and went on to my next academic experience, again, I realized how prepared I was. I mean, I was tutoring, my peers in things that I struggled in at Academy, but I was, just so much more prepared than a lot of my friends in college and things like that. And so, that appreciation has grown, but seeing it from the parent side now and just seeing how well my students or my own kids are supported as students is just incredible. They're all different, of course, as all kids are, and they all have found their interests at Academy, and they've found their friend groups, and they've found their teachers and adults that they can lean on and that they relate with, and the clubs and extracurriculars that they've been interested in. So just the amazing, plethora of opportunities that we have for students is, I think unmatched. And so, so I really appreciate and am grateful for that, seeing it from the parent side and the faculty side too, just seeing kind of what goes into, making a school day happen and, let alone a school year and the operations, just all of our different departments that go into making this campus.
It's a complicated place.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And so, and coming from the public schools, that's not something that, it's not the same, there's not, it's not the same kind of operation that we have here at the Academy that's so comprehensive and inclusive. So as a parent, I've definitely, it's just continued to grow my appreciation for what we have here.
The other thing, I mean, at one point you had kids in all 3 divisions.
Right. Yep.
And that has really been informative because when you're like, hey, I got this letter from this division and this, and we were like, we got to get our act together on this. And we really have made like a lot of progress, but it's when the people sitting around the table are also experiencing it. I mean, that's why we all teach too, right? On that.
Yeah, it's been some fun parent nights, where we're like, Jan and I are like, okay, who, are you going to go to this one or that one? And I'm having to like teach and,
So
And I'm definitely not the only one. So it's fun to,
Right.
run around on those nights and get to check out what the amazing things that our teachers are doing. And yeah, it's really fun to see.
So Peter, going back to your time as a student, what are your memories, or how did you work with Vincent Cordova?
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier, just the challenge of transitioning from where I grew up to coming to the academy, and Mr. Cordova had established the Students of Color Association. And so that was a place where when I learned about it and started going, just found connections, found affinity with some of my peers, and really, had that sense of belonging in that group that I think, allowed me to kind of have a sense of belonging in terms of just on a larger scale being at the academy. And so yeah, I really appreciate, him for founding that organization and just for creating that space, and just, and I remember him just as leading that, but maybe more facilitating. It was something where he wanted it to be student, driven. So, I think he, led by, just kind of giving us, just, I guess, autonomy and, I'm missing the words I'm looking for, but
it was student driven.
Yeah, student driven, right, and agency is the word I was looking for, and voice and choice in it all. So yeah, so I really appreciate him for that. And then coming into this role and coming back to the academy, seeing how much work that he had done, kind of before and since then, and just created, I think paving the way for this position and for a lot of the work that we do. And so so it's been, again, another full circle moment.
Right.
To get to be in this position.
And maybe talk a little bit. Now you're the director of the Vincent Cordova Summer Scholars Program. That program has been around a long time. It's had a lot of iterations, but I know this is one of your favorite parts of the job in particular. So why don't you talk a little bit about it?
Right. Oh yeah, it's definitely a great. I mean, most of my career in teaching, I've taught high school level and even in that older juniors and seniors for the most part, and so it's a nice change of pace, going to fourth graders, and it's definitely a little out of my comfort zone,
but you're so good with them.
I love they're so awesome, and I the structure of the day and the core of the program has been in place for so long, and so it's been a really great experience to have that core and to not have to reinvent the wheel, but also to be able to have some, creative liberty to implement some new things and new parts of the program that I think have enhanced it. And so, we've gone to a 5-period day now. We have ex-ed science. We have racket sports now.
Yeah, it mirrors the academy.
Right.
Which was part of what we wanted, exactly. Right?
Yeah. We have some common time, some community time, just like we do. We have an advisory kind of programming built in, and so it's great. They get the academic enrichment, they get the culture of the arts program, they get the ex-ed, the racket sports where they get to play and be outside, and we get to go on field trips, and so it's a lot of fun. I love every day coming in and seeing the fourth graders, and it's a 6 weeks where we all have been through something together, and so when it's over, it's hard to say goodbye, because and so but we have a reunion event in the fall that is a great time. We have a swim party in the natatorium, and so it's great to see everybody come back, and and now we have I see 6th, 7th, and 8th graders that have been in the program since I've been involved, and now I see them on campus walking up the path, and and it's hard, sometimes I don't recognize them because they've grown so much, and so it's fun to see to invite them to the academy in that way, being a part of the program where it's a full scholarship, so providing access and opportunity, and then to see them in a lot of cases come to the academy and grow as students. So I'm excited to have some of those come into my class at some point. Soon.
I love it. All right. So we'll finish with a little part of our show we call the lightning round.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you ready?
All right.
Red or green?
Green all day.
Me too.
Yeah.
I get upset when they don't put it on the salad bar. I'm like, we're in New Mexico, dudes. Let's go.
And red, there's some places red. Green is a little easier to get right. I think there's some really good red chili out there, but green all day. Yeah.
Chopped. To me, it's chopped green, put on everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite item in the dining hall besides chili?
Ooh, the soup bar I think it doesn't get enough credit. That's kind of my go-to. But But everything. I mean, I'm a foodie, so yeah, all of it is good.
What's your favorite sport?
Football. Yeah.
Do you want to bring up the two things you bring up to me every time we talk?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, just we'll put on record that.
Yeah.
So my junior year, is this what you're thinking of? I'm
Go
sure.
for it.
But we played Pius at Pius when Pius was in our district. Big part of the rivalry, and they're back in our district now. But for a while they weren't. But we had a stoppage in the second half of the game. This is a really close game, really intense, rivalry game. And we have an equipment timeout. And anyway, the game ended up going to double overtime. And I actually caught the winning touchdown. It was a halfback pass from Faison Sharif in the back of the end zone. And then we went on defense to stop them. And I think we had missed the extra point. So if they scored and got the extra point, they would have won. And I think Justin Papin or Ethan Braden caused the fumble. I recovered the fumble, and that was the end of the game. And so I remember the crowd rushing the field. And this could all be like embellished in my memory, but I remember the crowd running the field, and I held up the ball, and everybody was celebrating around me. So it was just a great moment. One of the best games of my high school career. And anyway, but we got on the bus, and a bunch of especially our linemen were bloodied, a little more than you would normally have in a game. And we come to find out that Pius had sharpened their buckles. That was what the equipment timeout was about.
They called them razor buckles.
The razor buckles. Yeah. And so we were in the paper the next practice. I remember, we had this big win and we were so excited, but it got overshadowed by, this controversy with the sharpened buckles. And so, the paper came and, filmed our practice and took pictures and things. And I think we made it in the LA Times and Sports Illustrated. And so, yeah, it was a big deal. But again, like this great game that, that was overshadowed. And I think a couple people had to have stitches and some, multiple stitches.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I will tell you, just yesterday, I was looking for something and I had to go back into some board minutes. And by chance, I came upon the board minutes from November of 98. And it talks about the razor buckle game. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell Peter.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
All right. Favorite spot on campus?
Oh, I mean, the medicine wheel is a spot that I just if I'm trying to find solace or meditate or just like it's a good grounding place. And Manoa meant, so much to me. He was a couple years younger than me. And so, yeah, that space has a lot of special meaning, but oh my goodness, there's so many places. I mean, the Harper Field, brings back a lot. But, I would say like the classroom is always like, whatever classroom it is, wherever I'm teaching, like have a group of students in the classroom and, just getting to kind of learn with them and help them to learn and grow. Like that's always my favorite spot in the world. Yeah.
Or as we like to say, all right.
All right. Yeah.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. I want to thank Vincent Cordova and Dr. Loretta Cordova de Ortega for joining me today, as well as my good friend Peter Gloyd. I'm very fortunate to be part of a team that cares so deeply about education. Go Chargers! Thanks for listening to What I Learned in School to learn a little bit about Albuquerque Academy. Send us your comments and questions to headofschool@aa.edu. You can listen to all of our episodes on our website at aa.edu and wherever you get your podcasts.